joining us. This is Paul Wilson.
And Chris Emke.
And you're listening to Diesel Performance Podcast. Guys, we finally did it. We got a UCC competitor to do an interview with us. I'm just joking. We've done a ton of these.
Shit. I mean, half the time we call these guys, they don't even want to talk to you, Paul. I'm just kidding. Everyone is very inviting when we call them.
It is. Absolutely. Absolutely. And John, I think, is just one of those guys. He's been on the show before, and we've talked to him before. And he's I don't think he's probably made our highlight reel because he doesn't say really wild or outrageous things.
But he's very genuine, down to earth, and he gives off an energy that is very, very inviting.
He's one of those guys that I think every time I interview him or we talk to him, I'm like, I get why people want to hang out with you. Like, you're a cool dude. I like it.
And he's got a cool truck. It's a little unique compared to some of the other trucks that are at UCC. He's had the truck a very long time. It's a club cab, cab and a half, long bed, 12 valve.
Yeah.
So there's a couple things that are unique that stand out with John. He's bringing a mechanical injected truck to UCC where, unfortunately, these days, Common Rail kind of dominates with all the data collections and things like that. And it's really cool to hear. You'll hear in the interview that he's able to data log his 12 valve. And he has some data collecting, attributes that he can do with the truck, which I think is really interesting.
How much effort he has put into getting data as opposed to just upgrading the truck that would collect the data for him, I think is worth an interview if nothing else.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we won't hold you guys up anymore. Let's get you right over to hearing what John has to say. John, how the hell are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking, man.
So we always ask every listener, I'm going to take the opportunity here. John, how did you get your start in diesel performance?
So I just kind of, I've always had the truck that I race in, and I've had it since high school, and I used to ride dirt bikes and everything. Then I got older, got into cars, and since I had a truck, I just started hot rodding it and figuring out how to make it go faster, and it just progressed into what it is now.
I love how you say I had to figure out how to make it go faster. You have a boat. I mean, it's a extended cab long bed, 97 12 valve. Like, it was never built to go fast. But we do love that type of passion of trying to do it the hard way. Yeah. Now, this is a cool truck. John, we've had you on the show before. We've had a chance to talk. You want to give our listeners a little bit of your history in competition around diesel performance?
Okay. Yeah, so I used to race with the NHRDA circuit when they were still running. We raced Super Street with the truck. I raced. There's local events at our track here too, and I guess it's semi-local. It's 2 hours away, but I just never wanted to bracket race. I don't know why. It just wasn't my thing. So I just kept trying to make the truck go faster and faster until we could race in the heads-up classes. And so I never drag raced before heads-up classes, and that was in NHRDA and then at Truck Fest at Bandamere Speedway in Morrison. And that's primarily what we've raced in is the Super Street with NHRDA, and then we did UCC qualifier a couple years ago. And then we've been trying to get out to some of the ODSS races, but it just hasn't happened yet.
I like how John is so humble that he's skimming over taking first place at the 2019 UCC qualifier.
Well, I mean, it was we tied for first place because there was some kind of the rules didn't
fucking rules.
Yeah, yeah. There was just a small discrepancy with the rules where it said that you can't sled pull twice if you get out of order or anything like that. And so there was just something that it wasn't even any competitors' faults or anything like that. But long story short, we would have won if they hadn't changed the run order of the sled pull, but they changed it. And so we ended up tying. I figured it was a tie for first place. But yeah, it was a good time and met a lot of cool people out there, and there's a lot of really well-built trucks that were at that event.
I mean, you're kind of in a sea of new technology. There's everything you're competing against, I mean, there's maybe one or two other mechanical injected trucks that were, in UCC qualifier and now, on the UCC main stage. Are you still sticking with a mechanical injected truck going to UCC 2021?
Yep. It's obviously not the easy way anymore. I think that's a common misconception with people where they say that, oh yeah, mechanical injection's easy to get this power, that power, and something like that, and it's not really. It's easy. It's free, I guess, when you have a stock truck to
make 100 horse,
100 horsepower.
right.
And that's where the easy thing comes from. But once you get to the power levels that all of the trucks are at now, I don't think there is an easy way. But the common rail stuff is a little bit easier to ramp power in smoothly and get it to stick to the track and all that kind of stuff, where mechanical stuff kind of seems, it's a little bit more temperamental, and sometimes it kind of seems like a light switch, how the power is like nothing down low and then it'll come on. And so it's kind of like tuning an old carbureted engine. We always joke that it's the carbureted version of the diesel stuff.
So walk me through, you set up the truck. I live in an era where everything is common rail with what I do for a living and what we do here over at Calibrated Power. You take the car to the track, the truck to the track. You could data log it, see what's going on. What do you do in preparation for setting up your truck, being that it's mechanical injection? Do you work with like a aftermarket data logger and have all the different sensors implemented throughout the truck? Or what do you do there?
Yep. So probably about 5 or 6 years ago, we started spending a lot more money on the truck, trying to get it to go fast. And I felt that it was kind of irresponsible just to be winging it, trying to look at gauges going down the track and stuff like that. So we put a data logger on the truck, and it's a race pack, and it's a V300 SD logger unit. So we've got all different. We've got 6 pyros, 1 in each cylinder. We've got sensors on the nitrous system, on drive pressure, boost, basically all the stuff that you can monitor on a common rail, with the exception of, like injector duration and timing and stuff like that. We monitor all the same stuff.
You monitor like the fuel pressure and things like that too, I assume?
Yep. Fuel pressure. And it's kind of cool too, because there is a little bit, there's a little bit more that we can do with the aftermarket logger, like with the way that our tack pickup works. It's got a flywheel tooth counter, and then we've also got a counter ring on the drive shaft. So between those two measurements, we can monitor converter slip too, to see if there's something going on with that, which is super useful, because you can see if you make a run and your converter slip is always this amount, and then you make a run and it's starting to be more, that you got something going on, and you should get the tranny out of it before it's catastrophic.
Well, I know what, some of the aftermarket ECUs and data loggers cost. You're playing with the big dogs and the common rail stuff at this point, but, data doesn't lie. And looking at some of the setups that you've had in the past, I've seen in the past you've had like a 7.1 liter Cummins motor. Is that correct?
Yep. That's what we had before. Yep.
That's you got a lot of time and money invested into it, so you got to have the good stuff. You got to know what's going on.
Let's talk a little bit more about that. Let's dive into what this build looks like. Is this the same build that you had in 2019 when you tied for first in the qualifier?
No, it's slightly different than it was then, which is kind of why the truck is not 100% together right now. We're trying to finish that up, but we had a 4.330 bore before, and now we're going to a little bit smaller bore and trying to get a deck plate set up for it. So it'll be
very cool,
slightly less displacement, but hopefully a little bit more durable.
Now, is the purpose of that, do you worry about giving up horsepower? Are you changing the turbo or fuel setup to kind of compensate for that? Or do you feel like getting the extra stroke out of the deck plate is going to more than compensate for it?
So I'm not really that concerned with the minor decrease in displacement. It'll be a little bit, but I think the biggest thing that really affects the manners of the truck, as far as cubic inches go, is a stroke. We've kind of found out that the stroke is what gives it the manners. That spools the charger's good and all that stuff. So I'm not that worried about giving up a little bit of the bore size on that. And we are changing a little bit. We did change a little bit with the fuel system and the turbo as well. After the qualifier 2 years ago, we switched to a single charger just to kind of see what it would do and lose a little bit of weight. And the truck really seemed to like the single charger better because it was not down on power really. And we went from making like 160 pounds of boost with the big compounds on it to make like 80, 90 pounds of boost with the single charger, and just felt a lot better about that because as far as the competitors go, I kind of feel like we're one of the smaller teams, and we don't have spare hard parts like that, like an engine or something like that. So it just made me feel a little bit better about using the same engine for all three events. Just going a little bit easier on it.
Yeah.
Now that walks us into that conversation that we're talking with all the UCC competitors about, and that strategy. We've already talked to some guys, Chris, that have said exactly like you alluded to. Yeah, I'm bringing 2 transmissions. Yeah, I have 6 turbos. Yeah. I have 2 engines. You know what I mean? Like I basically have 3 trucks with me. I just need to kind of Lego them all together, right? And hey, listen, some guys are at that level, and some guys have that capacity, and the rules allow for it. And I say go for it. But not everybody does, and that's one reason that I was really excited to see you coming back after crushing it at the qualifier, is come back as a small shop. The track, we know that if you want to be in the top 3, you have to do really good drag racing. Right. It's just a must. And then you got to kill it on the dyno. You can't go to the dyno and show up short, because some of the guys who maybe aren't that fast or don't have a lot of experience sled pulling,
make up the difference.
They're going to go make huge numbers on the dyno.
Yep.
And then nobody, there's maybe 3 people in all of UCC that know
that are
how to
impressive
sled pull.
On the sled.
Yeah, that just even know how. I mean, not like willing to do it. Everybody who shows up and actually knows what they're doing, feels confident about it. Maybe 3 competitors. And I think I remember our conversation after the qualifier in 19. You have 1 sled pull under your belt. Do I remember that?
Yeah, the sled pull that we did at the qualifier is the only time I've ever sled pulled before.
Which is funny because he has the perfect sled pull like chassis set up, is like that's what we would want.
Wow, that's wild. To this day, you've still only sled pulled 1 time?
Yep.
Dude, there's nowhere to sled pull out there.
Only one.
No, for sure.
There's nowhere. Our editor and producer Justin Tyson and I were out at DPC at Bandamere 2 years ago, and Chris, the cut, like they went into the grass with a bulldozer and cut into it, and like there's berms on either side. It's a 1-lane track, and they said, okay, this is where we're going to sled pull. And the guys from Colorado were like, oh yeah, this is one of the nicer tracks we've seen.
Oh my God.
I was like walking over, picking up boulders the size of my foot to pull them off the track.
Wow.
And I'm like,
and I just think of every county fair out this way, like on a Tuesday or Thursday night, they're buttering the track, water in the track. Like, it's better than the fucking farm fields that they farm in. It's just wild. Wow.
So sled pulls.
Yeah, I've heard that. There's just not any of that out here. I've got friends in the Midwest, and they're like, yeah, man, you should really make it out here and try to hit some sled pulls before UCC, but it never has lined up.
Well, I mean, that brings us into our next question, right? It doesn't line up. Why doesn't it line up? Is your truck together?
It's not currently together, but I should have probably addressed some of the things that we wanted to change slightly earlier, but just had a lot of different stuff going on with trying to change gears, doing a little bit different stuff with the shop, and then decided to remodel our house. And I just should have done some of this stuff before. But yeah, the truck was together before, and then we were trying to make sure everything was good, ready to go for UCC, and then decided to deck plate it. So
Oh wow.
That's so on
Hopefully
brand
we
for
can-
UCC.
That
that
is.
is every competitor. I think maybe in the 3 or 4 years we've been covering UCC extensively on the podcast, maybe have talked to 4 competitors altogether that have had their trucks together when we interviewed them before
Yeah.
the show.
Yeah.
And that's right down to like Tony Burkhart with Last Minute Hooker. We talked to him a
couple-
week
yeah,
before
and it wasn't
UCC
together.
and it wasn't
Yep.
together. So that's fairly common. Now,
The nice thing that John has in his favor is it's the same truck. I mean, when you look at someone, like Tony Burkhart, like that was a different truck, different everything. He had never even had that truck together before,
for sure.
But that's wild.
What do you think though, John? Because you are making some significant changes. I mean, going to the deck plate, changing up the turbo setup, changing up the fuel setup. Are you going to try to get some passes in? Are you going to try to do some prep, or do you feel like, hey man, I got a decade of racing experience. Like it's a truck, I know what I'm doing.
No, I feel like that would be ignorant for me to say, because it's just kind of one of those things that anything can happen at this event, and I mean really with racing in general, anything can happen. So I would never go into it thinking that I was 100% prepared the best that I could be, because I just feel like there is no possible way to show up to an event like this ready 100%. So I would really like to go make some passes with it before. But we did learn some things. Obviously, you learn things every time you go race, but I'd never competed in an event like UCC before. And so when we were at the qualifier, we are out here getting everything ready, load the trailer. The truck is all polished. Everything looks good. Everything's clean. Back it into the trailer, and I'm feeling good. We pull out, we get to UCC, start the truck to pull it out of the trailer, and I'm like, what the hell? It sounds like a rod's going to come out of the side of it. And I was like, what is going on with this thing? And it ended up somehow driving it from Colorado to Indianapolis. The converter bolts decided to come loose a little bit, so it wallowed out the holes in the flex plate holes, and so ever since then, we check the converter bolts and the dampener bolts after every single pass, every dyno pull, every drag race, or every sled pull, everything. Check the converter bolts and dampener bolts, because just crazy things can happen like that. Where
That's nuts.
What a wild, unsuspecting.
Yeah,
just
right. I was not
gremlin, where
expecting
you're
that.
like,
Yeah.
well,
I'm like a fuel leak, an oil leak. I'm thinking like, oh, that's normal, but damn, that's terrible.
we get there first night, pull the tranny out of the truck before it even makes a pass. The competitors around us are laughing at us, just thinking that just some idiots that.
And then you beat them all. Oh man, that's
I'm so
crazy.
excited. John, hey, we're asking all the competitors too. Give us who you think you're going to see in the top 3. Even if you just want to pick 2 other guys, who are some of the other competitors?
Of course, you're the third.
You think are going to be up there on the podium with you?
Oh man, I don't even know. I don't even know if they've released all the competitors yet. I looked the other day and I thought there was only like 20 something trucks on there, but yeah, I mean, I think that Power Driven's truck always dyno's good and sled pull's good. I think they've been in the top 3 like every year, if I remember right.
Well,
I think they'd be a safe bet.
They just released that Josh McCormick's Common Rail is going, so that's going to be in UCC going into 2021.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So, but they're taking their truck too as well.
I see. I don't want to.
Was unclear.
I don't want to be on record saying that. We're gonna have to get them on, for an interview, of course. But what I know and what was posted and what dealings I have with Josh, aside from the podcast, was his truck is going this year.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if they take their truck. I mean, that thing seemed like it's been pretty good at UCC every year, and then. I don't think that Industrial was going or Derek Rose. I think they would be safe bets, but I didn't see that either of them were going. So I don't even know most of the other trucks that are going to be there. But
You fucking 12 valve guys.
No,
if you only know the
he's
other 12
mod-
valves
he's-
in the competition.
he's grounded.
Did you hear everybody he listed is all people who
Okay,
also
well, clearly
have
that's
mechanical
all he
injection
cares
12 valve.
about.
hey,
He likes 12 valve shit, man.
And Baca, but they're not going. So I don't know who's going. That's with the front running truck. I don't think Fire Punk is going this year. So
John just loves the
I know
sport.
Donovan Harris. I think they said he was going.
I think
But I think when he posted that, it was on April Fool's Day. So I don't know if that was serious or not.
Totally. Dude, also have no idea because it's Donovan, right?
All the borders too are that's a shit show.
Yeah.
But Chris Seal did say that there was a good opportunity where he might be coming. One of the only guys up from Canada coming.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think he was talking. He was going to soak up and do the 2-week quarantine, quote unquote. All right.
Oh man,
that's rough.
Yeah, I guess if I had to pick people that I know are going, I mean the Truck Source Diesel guys, they've been doing it forever. I think either one of their trucks would have a really good shot, and Power Driven probably as well. So of the vehicles that I know are going, so
good picks.
I guess that'd be my pick because I know all those guys and I know how driven to win that they are.
And you, of course, you're in that top 3, right?
Yeah, that's what we're hoping for. I wouldn't be going if I didn't feel like we'd be in the top 3.
There you go.
I love that. Are you going to give our listeners a little tidbit? What are you estimating your combined dyno number is?
I don't know. I think that we'll be able to make over 2,000 horsepower. I just got to learn how to strap the truck to the dyno. That was our problem last year. I guess they told us that's part of kind of the way that you need to. I mean, it's like lining up for sled pulling or lining up in the groove for drag racing. That's part of what makes your pass good is telling them where to put it on the dyno, like where to set it up on the roller, how to strap it down and everything. And we don't have a dyno. I've dynoed my truck very few times, so we've done a little bit of research. So I think last year we spun the tires on the dyno, or last UCC. So I think if we can make it stick to the dyno, I think it will make over 2,000 horsepower, and I think it made around 2,500 foot-pounds of torque last year. So I guess we'll say, I'll just guess 2,000 horsepower, 2,800 foot-pounds of torque.
4,800 combined.
4,800. That's wild.
It's a big number.
Well, we're excited to see you compete. I'm sure you're chomping at the bit here. Days are numbered, getting the truck together and hopefully getting some test passes.
Yeah, we're gonna definitely try to get it together as quick as possible. But yeah, we didn't change. The truck's not 100% different from before. Just the engine, which I know that sounds obviously that's a big deal, but figuring out the chassis and swapping the sled pull stuff on and off and all that stuff. We've got a slight advantage in that aspect because we didn't change anything with the sled pulling stuff or anything like that.
I love it. So,
awesome.
And we use the same axles for drag racing, dynoing, and sled pulling, where I know some people swap them out and all that stuff. But I've got a couple friends that help me out that are local to me, and then my dad and my brother and my wife, and so I basically set everything up so in worst case scenario I could do it by myself, and I wasn't going to be swapping axles by myself with any sort of haste. So
no.
We tried to make it as easy as possible.
I dig it.
That's awesome.
John, anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely wouldn't be able to do this event without Garen Transmission helping us out, and Midwest Turbo CRT. They work with us big time on the turbos, and Police Performance. They help us out with some of the engine stuff. Diamond Pistons, Manton Push Rods, Mountain Machine. We met them last at UCC, and they've been a huge help ever since then. And then Hot Bods Racing, they've kind of believed in us as well, so they helped us out with lightening the truck up. So, yeah, definitely wouldn't be able to do it without help from those guys.
Well, that's awesome, man.
Awesome.
Well, John, I really appreciate you joining our listeners today and giving us a little bit of insight of you getting ready for UCC. We're excited to see you there, and good luck.
Increase the durability, line pressure, and performance of the Allison transmission in your GM 6.6-liter Duramax LML and L5P with the XDP EPC solenoid Fuller plug. From the factory, the EPC solenoid increases line pressure up to 230 psi during shifting. Once the shift is complete, the pressure drops back down to 80 psi. At 80 psi of line pressure, your Allison cannot hold the added stress from aftermarket upgrades or heavy towing. The XDP EPC solenoid fooler fixes this issue by installing onto the solenoid and back into the valve body. This lets your transmission effectively operate at 230 psi all the time. This eliminates clutch slipping, poor shifting, and extends transmission life. To find out more about the XDP EPC solenoid fooler plug, check out xdp.com or find a local dealer near you.
Chris, people have been hearing us talk about Exergy Performance, well, since the start of the show.
Right, of course. They've been a believer since the inception, to say the least.
I know I just recently talked to Randy Harkema over there. Guys, of course, you recognize him from our snake oil or not fuel additive episode. He's one of the guys at Exergy that we rely on for technical expertise. And I thought it was really cool. I was just talking to him about going to UCC.
Okay.
You remember the booth that they bring to UCC every year?
Yeah, I remember 2019. They do this really cool engine stand with a Cummins with their standalone with a throttle, a hand throttle, and you can, be part of the engine operating. They start it, you can rev it and all that cool stuff. And I think it's really cool because it gives you that hands-on experience to say, hey, here's Exergy's fuel system, here's Exergy standalone, Bosch standalone, here's everything working.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you can't forget it once you've seen it.
I didn't push too hard to ask all the details because I like to walk around UCC and kind of be surprised by what I'm going to see. But I will just say that if you're going to UCC this year, make sure you go swing by the Exergy Performance booth. You're definitely going to want to check out what they have.
Oh, man, that's exciting.
Chris, you know WC Fab and WC Fab powder coating. It's going to be one of those places that if you've never heard of them and you go check out their booth at UCC, or if you go to their shop and kind of hang out and see even just the foyer, like what the waiting room, you're going to be wildly impressed.
It's tough because you don't know if someone were to tell me, hey, they do all these crazy powder coat colors, they do compound turbo kits, triple turbo kits, intercooler piping kits, whatever. I am a very simplistic individual, so I have a basic thought process or picturing in my head of what's going on. And if you see their work in person, they're very meticulous with their fabrication. The welding is superb. But their coloring options that they have from their in-house powder coating service is second to none. There's like 400 colors that they keep in stock.
Yeah.
All of their signature colors are, they're the most popular for a reason. They stick out the most. And I mean, Paul, man, over the years being at Calibrated Power, we have seen so many WC Fab trucks come and go, being on the dyno, things like that. And, I remember when I first started, it was exciting to see a 700, 800, or 1,000 wheel horse truck. And you just know if a truck's coming from WC Fab here, it's going to make big power. I normally just get excited for what kind of color schemes under the hood of the truck. But you're going to get what you pay for. They offer a really good quality product and they have a really good support staff. They're going to stand behind what they do. And I think that goes a long way, especially this day and age in this industry.
Absolutely. All right, Chris, not winners, just favorite truck. Is this it for you? Does John have your favorite truck that's going to be at UCC?
I think it's one of the more unique ones. I think if you were to have asked me that question 7 years ago, I would tell you, yeah. I'm definitely a little.
I think 2 years ago you would have said, yeah.
Maybe 4. I'm a little. I look at things a little differently now. I think that the common rail stuff, there's challenges when you do any type of big horsepower build. I don't care if it's
they all got
gasoline, carbureted, or electronic fuel injection. You do a mechanical diesel, a common rail diesel. There's always different attributes that come about. But to me, and I think maybe it's just because the mechanical stuff is so foreign to me these days, that's another hurdle that you have to overcome. Where to me, I'm around common rail stuff all the time, so I think that's just easier.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be really interesting to see how a truck like his shapes up, being what it is versus what a lot of the other competitors are bringing, which is newer technology.
If he goes there and literally just sets a record for best performance of a mechanically injected Cummins
At UCC?
At UCC.
Okay.
Is that impressive?
Absolutely. 'Cause, I mean, he mentioned in his interview, power-driven diesel.
Yeah.
They've been in his camp. They've worked with him in the past. He's got products and support from them, and they've favored fairly well at UCC in the past.
For sure.
So I would say, yeah, if you're able to go in there, with a mechanical mafia truck, right, and you're able to go and do cool shit, yeah, I mean, that's a huge accomplishment.
I like it. Well, guys, I think depending on when these episodes are going to fall, I think we have more UCC interviews coming towards you. If not, depending on when this goes live, we may have actual UCC coming right at you. So
either way, UCC's coming.
Yeah, that is what we're talking about right now, probably all the way through the end of May. So be ready for it. We are excited. I will be at the show. Make sure you stop by the Duramax Tuner booth, the Exergy Performance booth, and the WC Fab booth. And if XDP has a booth there or any reps there, make sure you stop and say hi and mention the podcast. We love having all those guys on board with us. For today, this has been Paul Wilson.
And Chris Emke.
Thanks for listening. We got a UCC competitor to do an interview with us. I'm just joking. We've done a ton of these.
Shit.